Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of the piecewise functions video. In this part we're going to be graphing a piecewise function and then using a piecewise function in a word problem. Alright, so let's go into the example 3. It says graphing a step function. It says graph this function f of x equals -1 if x is between -3 and -1. F of x equals 1 if x is between -1 and 1. And then f of x equals 3 if x is between 1 and 3. All right, the solution. The graph is composed of how many line segments? All right, so we have 1, 2, 3 line segments. So the graph is composed of 3 line segments. And the first line segment is given by the equation y equals -1. And remember that f of x is the same thing as y, so that's why they've chosen to use y here instead of f of x. So y equals -1 and represents the graph when x is greater than or equal to, x is greater than or equal to -3 and less than -1. All right, so we're going to graph some dots on here. All right, so now, to graph the first piece of the function, I have to go where y equals -1. So y equals -1 right here. I'm just going to draw a little dash line here so I know where my line should be. And now I have to account for the domain. So the domain says x is between -3 and -1. Now remember, your domain is always your x values. So you're going to go to where -3 is on the x-axis, line it up with your placeholder here. And since it's x is greater than or equal to 3, we have to put a closed dot. All right, and then since it says x is less than 1, I'm going to go to -1 on the x-axis and line it up with my little placeholder. And since it's just less than, I'm going to do an open dot. All right, and then I connect the two together. All right, and let's write that over here on the side so we can remember it. The less than and greater than signs mean open, and then less than or equal to and greater than or equal to mean closed. All right, so the next part of the line segment is where y equals 1. So I'm going to go up to where y equals 1, make a little placeholder here, and then the domain is between -1 and 1. So I'm going on the x-axis where x is -1. Line that up with my placeholder, and since it's x is greater than or equal to -1, I'm going to have a closed dot. All right, and then x is less than 1, so I should have an open dot over 1. All right, the third line segment is where y is equal to 3. So I'm going to have a little placeholder right here where y is equal to 3. And then for my domain, it says x is greater than or equal to 1. So I'm going to go to 1 on the x-axis and line that up with my little placeholder here. And since it's greater than or equal to 1, I'm going to have a closed dot. And then I'm going to go over to where 3 is on the x-axis, and since it's just x is less than 3, I'm going to have an open dot, and then I connect those two together. I'm just going to erase this little part here so we won't think that that's part of the function. Okay. All right, so that's what our step function looks like. All right, now let's fill in the sides over here. It says the blank dot at -1, 1. Well, let's go to -1, 1. So I'm going to start at 0, go to the left 1, that's -1, and then go up 1. All right, so that's a closed dot. Okay, and it indicates that f of -1 equals 1. Okay, so at that point where x is -1, if I go up to the line here, that means that the function is equal to 1 at this point. All right, let's go to the other side. The blank dot at 1, 1. Let's go to 1, 1. So I go to the right 1 and then up 1. That's an open dot. So an open dot at 1, 1 indicates that f of 1 is not equal to 1. And in fact, our function is it's undefined right there because it does not include that part of the domain. All right, if you have any questions on that example, then you can post them under the video or post them on Edmodo. All right, so I'm going to go to the next example using a step function. Oops. All right, our step function is, well, our word problem is about a parking garage, and it says that the parking costs $1 per hour or $4 maximum for 6 hours. Write and graph a piecewise function for the cost. All right, so let's underline some important information. It says the parking costs $1 per hour, or a $4 maximum, so that will be important, for 6 hours, and that would also be important. All right, so then we're going to write and graph the piecewise function. All right, so for times up to 1 hour, the charge is blank. All right, so for up to 1 hour, if you've only been in the parking garage, let's say like 30 minutes, that means you're going to get charged $1, because it's $1 per hour. And there's no in between. So if you stay 30 minutes, it's not like they're going to cut it in half to 50 cents. All right, you say from 0 minutes to 1 hour, the charge is $1. All right, so for each additional hour, the charge is an additional $1. Again, $1 per hour. Until you reach $4, because $4 is the maximum. All right, so we're going to let T be the number of hours we park. All right, so if T represents the number of hours we park, F of T represents the cost of the cost to park there. Sorry. All right, so we're going to fill in F of T equals with the cost. Okay, how much it's going to cost you to park there for a given amount of hours. All right, so if you park from 0 minutes to 1 hour, the cost is $1. If you park from, let's say, 1 hour and 1 minute to 2 hours, the cost is $2. Okay, and the same for the next step. So if you stay between 2 hours and 1 minute to 3 hours, then the cost is going to be $3. And if you stay from 3 hours and 1 minute all the way up to 6 hours, because the cost isn't going to change from 3 hours and 1 minute to 6 hours. It's going to be $4. All right, so now let's fill in our domain. So when we fill in the less than or greater than sign here, we have to keep in mind what we're talking about. We're talking about a parking garage. So if the domain is 0, that means you haven't parked yet. You're not in the parking garage. So 0 is not included in the domain, but numbers greater than 0 would be. All right, so we're going to draw a sign this way to say that T is greater than 0. All right, and then if you stay up to 1 hour, that means that 1 is included. All right, so we're going to draw a less than or equal to sign to represent up to 1 hour. All right, so again, for the next step, we have to think in the context of the problem. 1 hour is already included right here because we have less than or equal to. So we don't need to include it again here. We need to include time that's greater than 1 hour. So again, I'm going to draw this symbol here saying that T is greater than 1. All right, and then if you stay up to 2 hours, that means you would have a less than or equal to sign here saying that you stayed up to 2 hours. All right, and so the chin should continue. All right, 2 hours is already included here, so we just need a less than sign, and then we need a less than or equal to sign for the 3. All right, and again here, and then a less than or equal to sign here. All right, so we've written our function. Now we just need to graph it. All right, so we're going to start with the first function, the first part of the function, which is where f of t equals 1. So that means y equals 1. So I'm going to go up here to where y equals 1, put a little placeholder there, and it says if t is between 0 and 1. So now t is just greater than 0, so that means I'm going to have an open circle. And then it is less than or equal to 1. So I'm going to have a closed dot there. And then I'm going to connect them two together. All right, the next one, it says f of t equals 2. So I'm going to go up to 2 on the y-axis. Make a little placeholder there. And then it's between 1 and 2. So since t is just greater than 1, I'm going to have an open circle. And then since t is less than or equal to 2, I'm going to have a closed circle here and then connect them together. All right, and then I'm going to do it again for the third part where f of t equals 3. So I'm going to go up to 3. This is where my line should be. That's my little placeholder there. And then I'm going to go to where t is greater than 2. Right, so since it's just greater than, I'm going to have an open circle. And then t is less than or equal to 3. So I'm going to go to 3, line it up here on my line, and it's going to be a closed circle because it's less than or equal to, and then connect the dot. All right, one more piece to go. I'm going to go where f of t equals 4. So go up to 4 on the y-axis, and then I'll go over to 3. Okay, on my x. And so it says t is greater than 3. So I'm going to draw an open circle here. And then it says t is less than or equal to 6. So I'm going to go all the way over to 6. And then that should be a closed dot because it's less than or equal to. And then connect them together. All right, so make sure that you copy everything down, and if you have any questions, you can post them under the video or post them on Edmodo, and I will answer them. And if you still have questions tomorrow, bring them to class with you. We'll do an example tomorrow in class together and to get ready for our task. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.